The movie begins in June 2022 at the Tripathi Junior College. A number of people can be seen coming in for the admission of their kids, indicating how good of a college this is. Meanwhile, in a class, a professor can be seen teaching mathematics to the class. While most of the students can be seen dozing off, a boy, Abhi, can be seen trying to keep up with all the tasks. After the class ends, he is furious that the teacher does not teach well, but wants the students to do difficult tasks as homework. Annoyed, he packs his stuff and goes home. Once home, he finds that his father is selling their grandfather's video store. The reason is that since Abhi is not a top scorer in his class, his father would probably have to pay some extra money for him to secure a seat in an engineering college. The next day, along with two of his friends, Abhi goes to clean the store. Abhi is sad to let go of something that was so precious to him, but his friends try to cheer him up, saying that it would help fund his education. As they begin tidying up, they stumble upon an old wooden box. Naturally, curiosity wins, and they open it, half expecting to find some racy content. However, they are in for a surprise. Instead of anything scandalous, they uncover a collection of ancient video recordings of a man teaching mathematics. As fate would have it, the man is solving the exact problem they were assigned for homework that day. Mesmerized by the man's teaching prowess, they decide to uncover his identity. After rummaging through the box, they discover a receipt dated May 4th, 2000, with a name and address scribbled on it. Assuming this must be the genius in the video, they eagerly hop on their bikes and race to his house, already envisioning themselves succeeding in the entrance exams with his guidance. Arriving in the village, they are surprised to find multiple people with the surname Murthy. Seeking answers, they head to the local government college, where the peon informs them that the person they are looking for is not a teacher, but a student named A.S. Murthy, who now lives in Kadapa and serves as the district collector. Determined to get tuition from him, they catch the next bus to Kadapa. Upon reaching his office and waiting for 3 hours, they are finally allowed inside. They are taken aback to discover that A.S. Murthy is not the man from the videos. Abhi suggests leaving, but his friend urges him to at least speak with Murthy. It turns out that Mr. Murthy was close to Abhi's grandfather. Recognizing Abhi, he inquires about their visit. Abhi shares his story and presents the video cassettes. Murthy's face lights up with a smile as he reveals that the man in the video is his mentor, Sir Baloo. Glancing at a high wall, they see a photo of Baloo, beaming with pride. We're then transported back to 1993, and Murthy begins recounting Baloo's story. The 1990s marked a turning point as the privatization of the economy improved the nation's financial outlook. Education suddenly became the golden ticket, with professional courses like engineering and MBBS skyrocketing in demand. Some people took the opportunity and made education their business. Private junior colleges popped up in every city, and in the name of better education, fees soared to absurd heights. Meanwhile, state governments fumbled, unable to properly run government junior colleges. Things got so dire that even paying lecturers became a challenge. Swooping in to save the day, or rather their bank accounts, private college owners snatched up the best professors with promises of higher pay. As a result, government colleges shut down, leaving poor students who could not afford the inflated fees in a lurch. By 1998, desperate parents took to the streets in protest, sparking campaigns that rattled the government. Sensing an opportunity, opposition parties jumped in, adding more pressure. In a bid to salvage both their image and Tripathi's private colleges, the government, alongside Srinivas Tripathi, the chairman of Tripathi Educational Institutes, cooked up a plan. Murthy explains that Srinivas had a dangerous agenda. Amid the chaos, Srinivas announced that his institutes would merge with government colleges, promising to send top professors to improve the institutions. However, his real motive was to dispatch junior, untrained lecturers to these schools for the sake of appearances. This is when we are introduced to the protagonist of our story, Sir Baloo, a mathematics teacher. He was not only a teacher, but a guardian. One night, he gets a call from a student about a dispute over money. The students had wagered 100 rupees on a volleyball game, but the losing team, demanding 10 times more, started causing trouble. Baloo arrives, pays 600 rupees from his own pocket to calm the situation, and begins to leave with the students. Learning that the hooligans had beaten up the kids, Baloo returns, fiercely confronting the troublemakers. He single-handedly takes down the gang in a dramatic fight. The next morning, Srinivas Tripathi calls a meeting for all the junior teachers. They are all told that they are being sent to government schools and will get rewarded if their performance is good. Baloo asks about the reward, expressing his desire for a promotion. Srinivas, amused, says that if all Baloo's students pass their exams, he will be promoted to senior lecturer. On his final day in the city, Baloo is invited for dinner at his uncle's house. His uncle imparts the wisdom that teaching is more than just a job. It is a responsibility to prioritize students' lives and futures. Baloo laughs and enjoys the meal. On his way home, he encounters his father, Narayan, who is drunk but thrilled that after 30 years of working as a driver and calling many men sir, now his own son will soon be called sir in a college. Baloo, feeling modest, downplays his achievement, saying he is just a regular teacher. The next day arrives, Baloo gets his appointment letter, and along with two other teachers, Karthik and Blue Reddy, he rides to his destination. Upon reaching the college, they are welcomed by the peon of the college, Swami, who takes them to their residence. There, Karthik and Blue Reddy fight over which room they will take, and Baloo very intelligently sorts their problem, taking the room for himself. The next morning, they are greeted at the college by the village president and two local teachers. Videos are made, and pictures are clicked. The videographer is none other than Bhushan, Abhi's grandfather. As they are shown around, Baloo is stunned to discover that many of the classrooms are locked up tight. It turns out the college had been shut down due to a severe teacher shortage and only reopened a few years ago. During the tour, Baloo's attention is immediately captured by a stunning young teacher, Meenakshi, the biology instructor. She's been teaching there for 4 years, despite tempting offers from private colleges. She's chosen to stay, perhaps out of a sense of duty or sheer stubbornness. The day flies by with introductions and tours, but the night brings drama. Karthik and Blue Reddy find themselves in yet another squabble, this time over Meenakshi. Once again, Baloo steps in to play peacemaker. But when Karthik tells him to butt out, Baloo grabs him by the collar and, with unwavering resolve, declares that in 2 years, he is going to marry Meenakshi, and their future children will be calling Karthik and Blue Reddy uncle. The next day arrives, and Baloo excitedly goes to college, only to find his classroom empty of students. After waiting for an hour, he goes to the staff room, disheartened. There he finds the other teachers chilling, and Meenakshi sitting at a side. Disturbed by all this, he visits the principal's office, only to find that yesterday was all set up. Every student who has passed the 10th grade was called by the president for a photo op. With this revelation, Baloo's dreams of becoming a senior lecturer began to crumble, and so did he. Each passing day brought more restlessness and more uncertainty. Then, one day, Meenakshi sought him out to deliver a harsh dose of reality. She explained that their college was the only junior college in the entire district. Just 2 years ago, students from nearby villages flocked to this place, but when the college shut down, they left and never returned. She confided that the students are terrified, struggling to believe that the teachers won't abandon them again. He is stunned into silence. How could students trust these new teachers when she herself does not trust them to stay? She reveals that Karthik and Reddy had been trying to win her over, and she believed that in a week or so, Baloo would follow suit and eventually leave too. Unfazed by her words, Baloo assures her that he came with a purpose and has no intention of running away. He promises her that within 3 days, every student from the village will be back in college. With this mission, Baloo sets out to find the students, but discovers that they are working jobs to support their families. Despite the children's yearning to return to their studies, their parents refuse to let them go. After being turned down at every household, Baloo goes to the village president, pleading with him to call a village meeting and ensure that all students and their parents attend. The next day, the entire village gathers for the meeting. Baloo addresses the villagers and says that the reason why parents are not sending their kids to college is that they want them to earn instead of study. The villagers push back, arguing that they would starve if every family member did not contribute to the household income. Even the president opposes his idea, but Baloo remains undeterred. With a smile, he begins telling them a story. Once, there was a fisherman and his wife, who had 5 children. The wife managed the household, while the fishermen earned their bread and butter. Though they were extremely poor, they made the sacrifice of sending every one of their children to school. Their youngest son excelled in his studies, eventually graduating as an engineer and later becoming a scientist. The man Baloo is referring to? None other than APJ Abdul Kalam, the visionary behind India's nuclear power. Baloo concludes by saying that if Abdul Kalam's father had kept him from pursuing an education, the nation would have lost one of its greatest minds. He finishes his story by emphasizing that while there are many ways to earn money, true respect comes from education and from excelling in it. Moved by his words, the children begin to clap, showing their eagerness to study. One by one, the villagers join in, applauding the sentiment. After the meeting ends, Meenakshi approaches Baloo, telling him that he has won her trust, as well as the children's, and officially welcomes him to the college. The next day, Baloo, along with the other teachers, the principal, and the peon, waits at the gate for the students to arrive. Despite Hindi teacher Sudarshan's pessimism, Baloo remains hopeful. Meanwhile, the students begin leaving their jobs to pursue their education. Some are supported by their parents, while others face opposition, but their determination to follow their dreams remains strong. The sight of the students arriving instills a renewed sense of hope in Baloo, who welcomes them warmly. Baloo and the team started teaching with enthusiasm, even repainting and setting up the college. Their first challenge arises when Baloo discovers that some students are paying someone else to do their homework. Investigating, Baloo learns about Satu, a former student whose parents passed away a week before his EAMCET exam. Traumatized, Satu abandoned his studies, turned to alcohol, and took up odd jobs. Moved by his story, Baloo offers Satu 30 rupees a day to come back to college and study. The next day, Satu returns. As time passes, parents ensure their children attend college, and Baloo focuses on each student's personal growth. He helps them abandon their bad habits and promotes a productive lifestyle. The students receive uniforms, and Baloo provides extra tuition for those who need it most. One night, when Baloo and Reddy are making dinner, they hear someone shouting. It turns out that it is Meenakshi, who is extremely angry at Karthik. It turns out that he misbehaved with her, trying to woo her, and she slapped him in response. They take away their colleague, who drinks away his sorrows all night. The next day, he is diagnosed with malaria and sent back home. With Karthik gone, Reddy becomes afraid of malaria and decides to leave. Without these two, Baloo decides to teach physics and chemistry as well. The next day, Baloo announces the departure of the two teachers and declares that he will be taking combined classes for the first year from now on. As he begins the class, he calls all the students inside, but things quickly escalate into a fight. It turns out that half of the students are from a lower caste, and the upper caste students refuse to sit with them. Realizing the tension, Baloo calmly sends the standing half of the class outside and proceeds to teach the remaining students the topic of speed. Once done, he dismisses them, calls in the other half, and teaches them about velocity. After the class, Baloo brings everyone back inside and announces that he will be testing both topics the next day. Panic ensues as the students realize they have only learned half of the material and complain that it is unfair. Baloo seizes this moment to deliver a powerful lesson. If they are troubled by the division of one lecture, why are not they equally troubled by the divisions they have lived with for so long? He reminds them that for centuries, they have been divided by caste, but this is not how things should be. Every human deserves equal treatment and mutual respect. He then reaffirms that the test would go ahead as planned and that there would be no reteaching. After thinking for a moment, the students decide to put aside their differences and work together to prepare for the test. Seeing them like this makes him smile. As he leaves the room, he notices Meenakshi smiling at him. Meeting her gaze, he says with a touch of humor that while he can keep her out of his classroom, he cannot keep her out of his heart. After this incident, Meenakshi starts falling for Baloo. One day, she sees Baloo's sketch in a girl's notebook and makes every girl in the college give Baloo a Rocky bracelet, making him their brother. His acts of kindness make her fall more deeply for him, and when he leaves for his home during holidays, she calls him daily, and they talk for hours. After the holidays, first-year board exams happen, and everyone passes with flying colors. To celebrate this success, a celebration is held at the college, and Srinivas Tripathi is invited as the guest of honor. After the cake-cutting ceremony, Srinivas attempts to make a quick exit, but Baloo, brimming with enthusiasm, stops him. Baloo excitedly reminds Srinivas of the challenge he was given and proudly declares that he has completed it. He confidently assures Srinivas that next year, his students will top their exams and even ace the entrance tests for their dream institutes. Srinivas, however, is far from impressed. With a venomous sneer, he shoves Baloo away, spitting out that those low-class students only passed the exams by sheer luck, and that Baloo had nothing to do with it. The real reason for his rage becomes clear. His own college's passing rate is a mere 75%, while the government college boasts a perfect 100%. If word gets out, his lucrative business would be in jeopardy. Baloo realizes at that moment that Srinivas never supported the government college out of goodwill, but to further his own agenda. He did not send Baloo and countless other teachers to these remote areas because he believed in them, but because he expected them to fail. Sensing his defeat, Srinivas quickly changes his tone, patting Baloo on the shoulder and claiming that his harsh words were spoken in anger. To make amends, he offers Baloo a senior lecturer position at his own college, complete with a generous salary, a house, and a car. But Baloo, unfazed, smiles and firmly declines. He tells Srinivas that the parents of these so-called low-class students have sacrificed everything for their children's future, and to him, that future is far more valuable than any material offer. With unshakable confidence, Baloo asserts that each and every one of his students will secure an EAMCET rank. Srinivas scoffs, vowing to make sure it does not happen, and storms out, furious. Once back in his house, Srinivas meets with the owners of other private college owners who are worried about the effect of the government college's result on their business. Srinivas tries to calm them by saying that Baloo is one person and will not cause much of a problem for them. He set up his empire by bringing together unemployed teachers, and now he won't let anyone try to destroy it. Some even advise him to fire Baloo, but since they have signed a contract, Srinivas can't let him go. The government is also furious at him, saying that they won't let a mere teacher like Baloo ruin them. To calm him down, Tripathi gifts the government representative a car. The next day arises with several problems. The opposition starts opposing the government's association with private groups, saying that it is the reason for the unemployment of the masses. Protests start all around the country, and Baloo faces the consequences. The milkman refuses to give him milk, saying that the village president has ordered it. His poor father is also fired from his job. Baloo is still reeling from the news of his father's release from his job when he finds out that the government has terminated its contract with the private institutes. This means that all the junior lecturers who were sent to government colleges will either be called back or left unemployed. Meanwhile, Meenakshi and her mother are setting off on a spiritual journey, leaving Baloo to wrestle with his uncertain future alone. Refusing to give up, Baloo finds a new purpose. He tracks down Satu, only to find him drowning his sorrows in a bar. Enraged, Baloo drags him out and splashes water on his face, jolting him back to reality. Once Satu regains his senses, Baloo hands him his roll number slip, insisting that he take the second-year supplementary exams. But Satu, in no mood for motivation, burns the roll number slip right in front of Baloo. He bitterly tells Baloo that with his parents gone, and now Baloo leaving too, there's no one left to care whether he passes or fails. He tosses the burned slip aside and walks away. Watching him go, Baloo is reminded of a conversation with his father, where his father expressed guilt over not being able to fund Baloo's dream of becoming an engineer. His father had said that if, in the future, any student became an engineer because of Baloo, it would make him proud, knowing that someone's child achieved their dreams because of his son. Lost in these memories, Baloo lets out a sigh, packs up his belongings, and leaves the teacher's residence, unsure of what the future holds. Back in the present, Murthy tells Abi and his friends that everyone thought that they had subdued Baloo and won, but it was just the beginning. In the village, when everyone thought that the studies would stop, they found a new surprise. It turns out that since Baloo was removed from the college and his job, he started his own free-of-cost classes in a makeshift hut on the farms. The president calls Tripathi, informing him about this, and he orders him to solve this matter. The next day, before classes begin, the village president sends men to destroy Baloo's hut and belongings. Furious upon seeing his classroom in ruins, Baloo fights back, taking out half of the assailants before the police arrive. The inspector, who turns out to be corrupt, tries to arrest Baloo. Realizing that everyone, including the police, is involved in the conspiracy, Baloo calls out the inspector for selling his uniform and responsibilities for money. A scuffle ensues, and Baloo is captured and taken away. His students, seeing their teacher being taken, chase after the police van, calling out to him. At the police station, the inspector orders Baloo to be beaten. A junior inspector tries to intervene, arguing that punishing a teacher is wrong but is overruled. Meanwhile, the students arrive at the station to support their teacher, leading to a clash with the police. The principal attempts to seek the village president's help but is turned away. The president, after learning that his daughter is among the protesters, orders the inspector to beat the students into submission. Eventually, the president and other parents intervene, dragging their children away from the scene. Later, Tripathi instructs the village president to expel Baloo from the village, and not with any respect. The next day, a man on the order of the president announces to the villagers that Baloo is a dishonest man. He starts accusing him of crimes he never committed, trying to shatter his reputation. He announces that the president has ordered for Baloo to be kicked from the village. The situation forces the students back to their odd jobs, while Baloo is escorted to the principal's house to gather his belongings. As he walks barefoot on the scorching road, bruised and weary, one of his students, Satu, who is a cripple, spots him in this pitiable state. Fueled by concern, Satu rushes to his teacher's side, but the president's men roughly push him back, Undeterred, Satu sprints to a nearby hand pump, furiously pumping water until it breaks free and splashes onto the road, cooling the path ahead of Baloo. The men drag Satu away from the pump, but are not able to silence him. He screams for his fellow students, urging them to come to the aid of the teacher who has given everything for them, even enduring beatings on their behalf. Though their parents try to stop them, the students refuse to be held back. One by one, they pour out of their homes, determined to stand by Baloo. With the support of his students, Baloo makes his way to the village bus stop. They help him onto the bus, their faces streaked with tears, knowing that the man who fought so hard for them is being forced to leave. Upon reaching the city, Baloo gets down at the bus stop near his house, but is not able to hold himself, and falls down unconscious. His parents, with the help of the neighbors, quickly bring him inside and start bandaging him. On the other hand, when Meenakshi returns from her trip, she is informed by the students about what happened behind her. She quickly rushes to call him and tell him that she will come to him. Baloo sighs and says that she has to stay behind for the sake of the students, and hangs up the phone, saying that it is over between them. She cries her eyes out, broken. A few days later, a new teacher arrives at the college, who prefers sleeping over teaching. After trying for a few days, the students gave up studying and got back to their old jobs. Meanwhile, Baloo interviews at several places, trying to find a job, but because of Tripathi's orders to not hire him, he gets rejected. As a final resort, he starts home tuition. One day, while he is teaching, Meenakshi arrives. He is surprised to see her there and tries to help her with her bags, but she refuses, furious at him for hanging up the call, furious at herself for even trusting him in the first place. Their heated exchange is suddenly cut short by the arrival of Baloo's mother, who, mistaking Meenakshi for a door-to-door soap seller, dismissively tells her that no number of tears will convince them to buy anything. Already furious at Baloo, Meenakshi says that he left after promising to marry her. The neighborhood, ever eager for a spectacle, quickly gathers at their front door to witness the unfolding drama. When Baloo's uncle asks what is going on, Baloo's mother wildly exaggerates, claiming that Baloo abandoned Meenakshi after getting her pregnant. Baloo is stunned, but quickly jumps in to clear up the misunderstanding. Yet his mother, in true brown mom fashion, ramps up the theatrics, declaring that if Baloo does not marry Meenakshi, she will simply end her own. Baloo sighs, pointing out that their financial situation is not exactly ideal for marriage, but Meenakshi offers to work alongside him to help make ends meet. With his mother's enthusiastic backing, Meenakshi moves in, settling down as the future daughter-in-law, ready to face whatever challenges come their way. Later, he is informed that the college is in ruins after he was kicked out. She asks for her help, but he says that he cannot do anything. She tries to convince him by saying where there is a will, there is a way. Suddenly, an idea clicks in his mind, and he makes up his mind. The next day, the two ride to their destination, Bhushan's video store. He asks for Bhushan's help, and Bhushan agrees. Later, Bhushan goes to the village and announces that the evening show at 6 is free for all inter-second-year students. No one suspects this, thinking that Bhushan is just trying to do this to increase his clientele. On the other hand, Meenakshi goes to the students and the college principal, telling them to come to see the show at Bhushan's cinema. With the help of Bhushan, Baloo makes all the necessary preparations. As the clock strikes 6 in the evening, people start arriving. Bhushan orders everyone who is not a student to leave since this show is specially for the kids. After the kids settle in, the video starts projecting. At first, they are annoyed since they were promised a movie. But when Baloo appears on the screen, their annoyance turns into happiness. It turns out that since their exams are in 1 month, Baloo has decided to teach them using video recordings. Every evening from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., their classes will be conducted here. He tells them that their goal is not to just ace their intermediate examination, but to secure a rank in EAMCET. They all promise to work hard to make their name, to tell everyone who tried to stop their education that they are meant to achieve greater things. From that day onward, the students started arriving for classes every evening. With Baloo teaching them through videos and Meenakshi supervising, they start studying harder. One day she calls him to inform him that the student has some doubts, and he promises to clear them. With the help of Bhushan, Baloo engages the adults of the villagers in a play and arrives at the cinema hall disguised to help the students. One day, as Baloo is sneaking into the theater, the police spot him. Suspicious of a man disguised and running inside the theater, the inspector goes after him. Bhushan tries to stop the inspector, but he does not listen. Once inside, he is shocked to see Baloo teaching all the students. He inquires Bhushan about all this, and he begs the inspector to not tell anyone. Their conversation stops when the president arrives, asking why the inspector is at the theater at this time. Instead of snitching, the officer lies, saying that he came just for a movie. After the president leaves, with a sad smile, the inspector says that he had made many mistakes in his life, and now, by overlooking what is going on, he is trying to repent for those mistakes. The time passes easily, without any trouble. But on the last day of their exams, the students bump into Srinivas Tripathi. Not knowing that he is the villain of their story, they approach him. After his unexpected meeting with the students, Srinivas calls one of his men and orders him to find Baloo. On the other hand, after taking their intermediate exams, the students start preparing for EAMCET. The president's daughter is one of them. Baloo continues to support them with his recorded lectures. However, just a day before the EAMCET exam, fate takes a cruel twist. Srinivas discovers that the students are gathering for classes at the theater and promptly calls the village president. He orders him to ensure that not a single student from the village is allowed to sit for the EAMCET. This time, the president refuses to comply. He stands up to Srinivas, asserting that there is a limit to his malice and that he will no longer be complicit in his schemes. He admits to having made several mistakes under Srinivas's influence, but vows to rectify them moving forward before ending the call. The next day, every student rides a bus along with Meenakshi to reach their exam center. But on their way, they are stopped by Srinivas's men. The students start to panic, but Meenakshi orders them to stay calm and keep studying. This scene bothers the leader of the hooligans, and he questions why they are not afraid of him. It is revealed that Baloo is also traveling with them, and he beats every man coming towards him. He bravely takes on the hooligans, clearing the way for the bus. Just as it seems they might make it to the exam center, the bus comes to a sudden halt. It has been tampered with by Srinivas's men. Seeing the bus incapacitated, Baloo collapses in despair, overcome with emotion as he watches their hopes seemingly crumble. But fate is in his favor when many bull-driven carts carrying grains arrive. Baloo requests them to take the kids to the city with them, and for the sake of the future of these kids, they unload the grain. Finally, they all reach the center on time and rush to take their exam. Later at night, the students wait for the newspaper man and request him to check their results. The man starts announcing their result, and the night turns to day. They find out that each and every one of them has a rank in the top 100. The last announcement is of a student with the first rank, A.S. Murthy. Everyone looks around because they don't know a man named Murthy. It turns out that he is none other than Satu, Anupam Satyanarayana Murthy, aka A.S. Murthy. Everyone claps for him, congratulating him. The college principal calls Baloo, informing him of their victory. With tears in his eyes, he goes to the temple to thank the Almighty. On the other hand, Srinivas visits the village and all the students. He tells them that he will support their further education. In return, all they have to do is tell everyone that they achieved this rank after studying at the Tripathi Institutes. He hands them all a contract and leaves. Their photos are plastered on billboards with the Tripathi Institute logo. Sensing victory, Tripathi summons Baloo and tells him that each of his students signed the agreement. He then threatens to ruin their future if they ever take Baloo's name in public. Baloo just smiles and says that buying ranks is not a victory, and leaves. A few days later, when a ceremony is held at the national level for all the top 100 rank holders, Murthy, having the first rank, is called upon stage to share his thoughts. Upon standing there, he remembers what Baloo told them about how proud he is that his students are getting the due respect. It turns out that he was the one who told them all to sign the contract for the sake of their future. He was the one who told them to take what Tripathi is offering, and one day, after becoming successful, help those who are in need. That day, Murthy was the one to sign the papers, and now, standing in front of everyone when he lies about Tripathi Institute helping him, the memories of Baloo flood his mind. Back in the present, Murthy tells Abi and his friends that after that day, they never saw Baloo again. He vanished into thin air. The theater, where Baloo used to teach them, is now turned into a coaching center for the underprivileged. Abi asks if anyone knows where Baloo Sir is, and Murthy shakes his head. The movie ends in a beautiful mountain city in Tamil Nadu. Nestled among the mountains is the Ansari School of Knowledge, where Baloo teaches free of charge, spreading knowledge.